Rock and roll doggy.
Sort of a musical journey, really, you know? No, it's a musical journey.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Rock and Roll Doggies. It's our podcast here, two lifelong friends, breaking down music that's been important in our lives. I'm Jason Acquisto here. It's JJ. My co-host, Don Pardue, live from Durham, North Carolina. What's up, man?
Not a lot, just prepping for the holidays in the midst of a chaotic 2020.
Right on. I love how there's a dramatic pause after I ask you how you're doing or say hello.
Well, I could have said, if you were, I could have said lousy. I thought about, just, I'm just not doing well tonight, Jason, but
You good? No, it's good, man. It's a weird year. It's very obviously the things you could say about it. It's all cliche by now, but we're doing the best we can. We're very fortunate considering how life is and how this country is right now. So doing good and keeping the podcast going. It is December the 19th as we record this. And Smurf, we are doing the U2 discography, the catalog of U2 albums, one by one, song by song. Here we are. We've done, obviously, Boy, October, War, Unforgettable Fire. And as we look at the Joshua Tree, this is the biggest album of their career. It is the big one. We could list accolades all day about this album, but let's just dive right in. Let me just go ahead and start with, U2 as well as Springsteen in a different way. It basically changed my life as much as music could possibly do that. And there's no bigger piece of that for me than these next two albums, and in particular, this next album. Many, if not most, U2 fans consider the Joshua Tree the apex of their career. Maybe it's the Achtung Baby 1 and 2 typically. Personally, this one is number one. This is the most important album of my life. This is the fully realized U2. I feel like you can never say enough. We could talk for a long time. Oh, it's on the list of the most important, the most influential, best of the 80s. People know that. We don't have to talk about what Rolling Stone said about it and 5 stars and all this. Everyone knows that. Let's talk about what it meant to us personally. So, to me, extremely important. What about you? Where do you rank it in the pantheon of their albums?
it's clearly in the top two. I kind of like ranking this and Achtung Baby like trying to liken, who's a better basketball player, LeBron or Michael Jordan or Larry Bird or Magic Johnson. 6 one, half dozen another.
Yeah.
They're both, and we're not going to jump the gun here on Achtung Baby, but they're both, needless to say, fantastic albums.
Obviously, Joshua Tree and Achtung Baby are many times put together as the tip top 1 and 2. And like you said, we're kind of jumping the gun to say, how do you rank it? But 1987, it meant everything to me when that came out. We talked about how they're almost superstars. They're almost the most important band in the world. They are about to release this album that, to me, it changed so much. Look at pop culture in 1987 when this was all hair bands and, on the radio. There was a lot of good music. Don't get me wrong. We know this. We were 21 and what, 18, 19 respectively.
19, I
yeah.
guess.
So a lot of good music, but the pop charts were kind of awful in a lot of ways and just so different. This was such a different sound. I was listening to, I don't know what channel it was, maybe the 80s channel on satellite radio, and U2 song ended. It was With or Without You. Afterwards, the next song was Johnny Kemp, Just Got Paid. And like 1988, it's just it sounds so much like the 80s with the electronic effects, and it just sounds so chintzy and thin, and no wonder this sounded so different than anything else. You can never forget what an oasis this was in the desert, pardon the pun, but it was like this meaningful music that came in a time when Poison and Every Rose Has Its Thorn was an earnest ballad that people, It's just a time when this was needed. Okay, so this was U2 fully realizing their most U2ist. It's the absolute top of their game. It is peak U2.
You know, this album was released in March of '87. I saw them live for the first time in the fall of '87 in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I still have such fresh memories of that. But they had a concert scheduled somewhere nearby and it fell through. So they scheduled a concert in Murfreesboro, Tennessee in the Murphy Center, which seats about 9,000. So it wasn't a huge arena. So it was incredibly intimate.
I don't know if people do that anymore, but they had an open date.
I believe, yeah, because it wasn't listed in the official. So if you bought the tour T-shirt, you didn't see Murfreesboro, Tennessee on the back of the shirt.
So you had to prove it that you were there. That's not even on the tour, dude.
Right.
That tour, I told you earlier. That's when I bought the Joshua Tree March of 1987. I was
Probably March 16th.
Okay, so that makes sense. We were about to, John Williams, our friend, he and I were about to head down to Florida for spring break, and I bought it on cassette. I didn't usually buy cassettes. Kind of a snob. I would buy the album at that point, record it onto a tape, and so I bought the cassette because we were driving down to Florida for spring break. I remember so much about that album, or the early days from that trip to Florida. I wrote this down. Everything spoke to me in a language that I'd never heard before, but somehow I understood it. We can just jump right in and talk about the songs. You want to do it?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay. Where the Streets Have No Name. This might be my favorite song of all time. It might be. And I've never heard it to where I didn't think that. The mood, the sound, the vibe, obviously that fade in. We talked last time about how it could be the connection to MLK, which fades out, the Unforgettable Fire. This fades up from the same little note. It just captures the essence of rock music, the escaping of yourself. To me, it's escaping yourself, but also embracing who you are at your essence at the same time. You know, that kind of that hope for a future or something better. It's just like a hymn. It's so beautiful.
It's I'm reminded the intro, and by the way, I don't know if it's my favorite U2 song, but it's top 3. And it's at a very, very high level. And the thing that grabs me about this song is that there may be other songs by other artists that I loved 30 years ago or 35 years ago. And after decades of reflection, I say, okay, well, that's a really good song. It's a great song, but it doesn't have the same vibe within me that it did 35 years ago. This song is an exception. This song, when I hear it now, I still feel the same way I did 35 years ago. It stirs something in me that I think almost goes beyond the conscious. It's subconscious. It's something that speaks at a very ethereal level that kind of supersedes your own understanding of what the song is about.
For sure.
The intro is so good, and this song is musically very complex.
Yep.
I think it goes from 3/4 to 6/8, I think, is the time. So there's a transition there in the music and the time of the music that makes it a complex piece. They actually spent, I think, almost 40% of their time recording this album was spent on this one song. But the intro, when I have this image in my head of flying through clouds, and there are nothing but clouds. And then when that song explodes in the intro, when the word percussion comes in, I get this image of breaking through the clouds and seeing nothing but sunlight.
Yeah.
It's a spiritual image, a mental image that I have when I hear this. It's transitioning from going from kind of darkness to light, to going from not knowing to knowing, going from one place into a higher, more clear place. I mean, I don't want to we prop songs on this episode. We spend a lot of time on bad. I don't want to make it sound like we're just, have blind faith and that everything this band does is great, because that's not true. But this is as good as anything they've ever done.
Absolutely agree. And you're right. Sometimes we do sound like fanboys, but the thing is, this is an important band to us, and this is the absolute essence of this. I mean, if we can't talk about how great this
Right.
album and this song is, then what are we even doing here? You're right. I love the way you say that, from not knowing to knowing. It's that heart and soul, that laying it all out there, the transparency, the nakedness of your own yearning, the reaching, the spiritual hunger, but also knowing of this other place. I show you a place high on a desert plain. That's that line right there. I show you a place. To me, that is the gospel of U2 right in there, right in that phrase. I know this place that I'm yearning for, that I know is there, that we will get to. However you want to explain that, to me, it's just a kernel of who they are right there. And then, like you said, I want to feel sunlight on my face. That's so joyful. That guitar sound is just the epitome of the Edge guitar sound. They spent so much time on that complex and underappreciated intro with the guitar, because if you look
by far,
if you look at the making of that, and it's amazing how much you listen to it, and it's a pop song, right? But wow, it wouldn't just sound that way if you just go in there and jangle around. It is exquisitely prepared. Are they talking about a new place, a new start, a new heart, a new redemption in this life, the next life? Yes, all of that. It could be perceived as heaven. Yes, I think a lot of times I think of it that way. But if you read the backstory, as I know you have, it's about them hoping that you could go to a place that doesn't suggest your own social standing and religion and income based on the name of your street, that everyone would be equal. Because of his experience, I think, in certain parts of the world where that's obviously the case. You can just know, oh, you're from blah, blah street. You must be this class of person.
I think that it's almost as if this song has, and it covers everything that we've just discussed. But I also am very drawn to this idea that I can go there with you. I can do this, but there's a limitation on what I can do. And there's a resignation that I have to be willing to accept, that I can only go there with you. I can't go any farther. There's a certain piece about resigning of oneself, that you can only go so far. It's all I can do. And that is, to me, has been a very powerful draw to this song.
It's a great insight. I hadn't seen that before.
It's all I can do.
It's all I can do.
And by the way, the Super Bowl performance of MLK transitioning into Where the Streets Have No Name in 2002, a few months after 9/11, is just anyone who states that that's not the best Super Bowl performance ever should be excommunicated. That is by far that is what U2 does at their best. That is U2 being U2, not U2 being the entertainer, but U2 speaking to the soul of people and a nation in a way that no other artist could have done. Nobody else could have pulled that off. And Bono said that I'm going off on a tangent here, but he was they were kind of leery about asking U2 to do this, and Bono said, "No, we've got to do it." In other words, there's no second thought. We've got to present this. So anyway, I'm sure most people have seen that, but if they haven't, please go watch that.
It's interesting how all of these songs have a life outside of the actual just recording of the album.
Oh, yes.
So in the heyday of MTV, 1987, there is no time that I ever hear this song now that I don't visualize the music video of them in downtown LA with this this staged concert on top of this liquor store. I think we're being shut down. I mean, it's the music video of Where the Streets Have No Name. And it's as much of the song, as much a part of the song as anything. And I want to be clear that I think the song on its own, before I ever saw that video, it was as great as I've talked about it being. The life outside of this, the recording of the music is a bonus. I think about that whole video and how important videos were, you know, at that time in history, and how that colors in extra layers of the music. And you and I can both probably quote the exact shot by shot, line by line of that music video, how that goes. And that's going to be true of the next two songs on this album too. These first three tracks on this first album, each one with a completely different style of video, but each one complemented and expanded and colored in and emphasized by their respective music videos. So this one being the rock stars on top of the liquor store, a la Beatles on top of Apple Records doing their farewell concert, right? That's kind of what the homage was.
Yeah, it's like Bono said, it's not the first time we ripped off the Beatles.
Yeah, we're stealing it back. So what do you remember about that video? Am I right about the video being important?
You know, as a 19-year-old, anything they did was important to me. Without jumping the gun, I think With or Without You was the best video they did off this album. I think, though, that, and it's also key to remember, this is the third single off the album. So they don't have to hit a home run with a video at this point.
Yeah.
It's indelibly marked in my mind. I don't think it's a great video. I think it's unique. I like it. I think With or Without You is the best video on the.
Of course. Totally agree. They were already the biggest band in the world. They were mega stars by the time this single came out. I mean, it was what it was.
And they could pull that off you can pull that off on your third single.
Right.
When you've had two number ones prior to that.
I see the dust cloud disappear without a trace. I want to take shelter from the poison rain. The next level
is so good here.
The next level of writing on this album is such a huge
top to
step
bottom.
up.
You know,
Not like a step. It's a major increase. This is
right.
a masterpiece of lyrics. There's no
the songwriting is so good on this album. If you extracted anything from this album and put it on an album 2 albums ago, it would have stood out as being a masterpiece. It's almost as if there's nothing that stands out as being a masterpiece on this album as far as songwriting, because it's good from top to bottom.
Exactly. And we'll see that when we talk later about what's the standout lyric. No way.
I know. I struggle with that too.
I could do maybe one per song.
Right.
But I mean, every song has this high level, the ultimate high level. The city's a flood and our love turns to rust. We're beaten and blown by the wind, trampled in dust. I'll show you a place high on a desert plain where the streets have no name. I mean, just come on. Come on, dude. We're still building, then burning down. And what's the hook on this song? The hook really is several different parts. You know, the biggest one for me, the essence, the yearning there is we're still building, then burning down love. And like you said earlier, when I go there with you. I mean, I can't even, this is the first song on the album and it's already, you know, better than anything ever recorded by this band.
It's as if, and he's writing here, the songwriting here is a lot different than what we'll see on the next album, where he becomes a little bit more, he's not writing in sketches. He's painting a picture here almost in a similar fashion like you did on The Unforgettable Fire, so that you're not seeing these great words of wisdom that come out. That's not what this is about. You're not blown away by, wow, I never, he's taken me to a whole nother level of consciousness and I didn't realize that existed. What he's doing is he's painting a picture, and by doing so, he's almost magically, as I said at the beginning, he's pricking a deep part of you. that he hasn't done before. And again, the way he's able to paint a picture here, it's like I talked about flying through the clouds and coming out through the sunlight and so on and so forth. It's
But you know what? That's what happens on the video too. At the beginning of that video, even as whimsical as the video is, remember the very beginning of it when they're doing the clip from the radio, talking about U2 is recording downtown Los Angeles. There's a shot of it, something coming through the clouds, like you're flying in a helicopter.
Oh, you're right. You're absolutely right. It's weird that I had forgotten all about that, but yet I don't know if
which came first. That getting
which came first, right?
But either way, that certainly is evocative of that whole. It's that whole thing that we've talked about since the beginning: the yearning, what is rock and roll except the meeting of sex and spirituality, the yearning of a soul for something higher, something greater than yourself, the escaping yourself, but at the same time embracing your true self. And this song, I mean, it's like everything was a warm up for U2 until you can almost think of this as the culmination of, like, they were pretty good. They were kind of a punk band. They were the rock band, an important rock band, a self-aware, self-conscious, socially conscious rock band. And then they're this. And this is the fully realized spiritual.
Yes.
The enlightenment.
Yes.
So I feel like this podcast could be all about this song. It could be all about this side. This is, to me, possibly the greatest side. We used to have sides and albums and tapes. These 5 songs are absolute perfection. The next cut.
I still haven't found what I'm looking for. I remember writing notes about this album and to myself after I listened to it. And it was just a continuation of adulation for each song, because I kept thinking, maybe I'm just overstating this. Maybe track 6 wasn't as good as track 2 or vice versa. And I kept thinking, because I've not heard anything that grabbed me like this, so therefore I must be overstating it. And after track 1, we come to track 2, and my gosh, we're smacked upside the head again with something that is totally different from anything they've ever done musically, because it's now we've shifted into kind of a blues gospel feel, but the essence of the for lack of a better term, emotion or the soul of the music is still conveyed. It's just conveyed in a totally different way and in a totally different sound.
Yeah, for sure. All of that. It's written in the style of, it's written as a psalmist in the style of the King David Psalms from the Old Testament. That's kind of the style of the verses.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Right?
That's good. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Like a poem from the Book of Psalms.
Yeah, when David would write from, he was pretty forthright with God in his writings, and that's what this song is. It's and that actually makes a lot of sense when you can layer this song into some of the comments that Bono has made about David. David is one of his biblical heroes. There you go.
Sure. The subject, I've wrestled with this song and embraced it in many different levels through my life. It's almost a 1 and a 1A. If I said Streets it could be my favorite song of all time. This also is right there with it, if not even more so, more specifically. The subject he's searching for is left without being defined. What are you looking for? Doesn't tell us what he's pursuing, just that he's searching with this focus. And there are allusions to Christian thoughts and specifically describing the gospel and things like that. But the last stanza, a declaration of his worldview and personal beliefs, saying that I do believe these things, and I still am not satisfied, or my quest is not fulfilled, and my race is not finished, and I still am not who I need to be, or my doubts are not satisfied, and that's okay. And I'm, that's my ongoing quest, spiritually, emotionally, personally, is being okay with not being done yet. And
doesn't this go back? Doesn't this reflect? It's like a mirror image of whether streets having a name.
Yep.
Here's, and I don't know if you've ever thought about it like this, and I may be the only person that has. If you listen, if you break this song down to 3 verses, in the first verse, it appears to be God's pursuit of man, because he says, I have climbed highest mountain. I have, help me out. Lyrics are escaping me
run
now.
through the fields,
Through
only
the
to be
fields,
with you.
only to be with you.
I have
only,
run, I have crawled, I have scaled these city walls.
Right. But I still haven't found what I'm looking for. In verse 2, it's, I have kissed honey lips. I have felt the healing in her fingertips.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes to, I have spoke with the tongue of angels. I have held the hand of the devil. And then it's verse 3, I believe in the kingdom come, then all the colors will bleed into one. But yes, I'm still running. So it seems to me that it's almost as if the first verse is God's quest for man, because in the second and third verse we're seeing references to held the hand of a devil, cold as a stone, kissed honey lips, felt the healing in her fingertips. Yes, I'm still running. You broke the bonds, you loosed the chains. It's almost like a conversation that's going on there.
That's really good. That's good insight. And I think you're right. It can be perceived that way. I've climbed the highest, and it is so much like the Psalms, where you can almost look at this as, and God said, I have run through the fields to be with you. And that could be the voice of God or that person of God. So even if it's not, it's this dual nature of spirit and flesh. And that's what makes us human. And the quest to never be what you're supposed to be fully realized. You can say, listen, I believe in these things. It's like almost like an Apostles' Creed, confession here that he goes through. Hey, I believe this. I know this. This is all, you got it. I'm all in with this stuff. But man, life is still messy and confusing. And I'm still not sure about a lot of things. And God, man, as a 19, 20, 21-year-old, that was pretty important for me to understand. That's okay. That's okay to feel that way.
These are the songs, and this may rub some fundamentalists the wrong way.
That's why we're here.
I find greater worship in songs that say, the songs that are gritty and say, I haven't figured it out. I know this. I haven't figured it out, but there's something that drives me to continue to figure it out, as opposed to songs that are just full of praise and praise songs, for example. I find there's more, for me, this isn't, I'm not speaking universally. There's more to me that finds worship in songs where there are challenges and obstacles, but yet the pursuit of something a lot greater, as opposed to just the adulation of one who is obviously the greatest. Now, again, that's probably going to set some people off, but that's me.
It is, and it's me too. I think that this is great because here's the things I believe. Yes, yes, yes. That doesn't mean everything is perfect or that I have it all figured out or all the answers. I don't know. I have doubts. I have flaws. And that makes me human. And that's okay because that's who I was created to be. And that all of this is me figuring out my own spiritual journey. But also, this is just it's a beautiful song. The words are so good. They're just so good. Even if you take away the personal spirituality, if you're just like, well, that sure is some lovely writing. The tongues of angels, the hands of the devil, the colors will bleed into one. I mean, just the dichotomy there of you want to sum up my life the first 22 years. I've kissed honey lips, felt the healing fingertips. I've held the hand of the devil, warm in the night, cold as a stone. I mean, you got like the broad spectrum of a young person's life that I've tried and done and been and seen. And here I am. This was a seminal moment to me, a milestone in realizing who I am because of all that. Even at that age, I mean, I was like, yep, I've I've done things and searched and wanted and yearned, and I had no idea what it really meant to do those things. But I thought I had. I thought I was this weary world traveler. I was just some kid.
Well, and so you two were in their late 20s here.
Yeah.
I was 19. You were 20 or 21. So
Yeah.
there's not that much of an age difference in what Bono / the band may have been experiencing compared to what maybe you were experiencing.
True. It was almost like they were, like this older brother or uncle
Right,
type thing,
right, right,
a few years ahead. But
right,
make no mistake, they were not living any kind of life that I would ever live. It's not like that.
right, right, right. We
But
have to
but
throw that in.
but a young man's life is universal in a lot of ways. So
Yep.
yeah, in this video talking about the MTV, this was another one that they kind of off the cuff did as this thing in Las Vegas. You remember exactly what that was. It was so much fun because not only did this song allude to Christ, and here we are talking about, wow, they mention Christ and they mention the gospel, but then they also say that they're not sure about have found look. And the video's in Las Vegas. I mean, this is a mind-blowing concept to us in Kentucky growing up as kids. And they put this video in Las Vegas and, oh, look, there's Adam. He's got a bottle. He's a drinking and haha, he's not a Christian. I mean, just it was so our perception was so small of who these guys were.
My favorite part of that video was the 1-second shot of him dancing, and there's a girl in the background wearing an Alarm Strength t-shirt. I love that. I love that. I love that.
That's great.
It was, yes, there's my Mike Peters moment.
I wonder if Mike Peters, paused the video.
Hey, listen, what do you think the odds are that we could get Twist on this show?
Nigel Twist?
Yes, Nigel. We could maybe do an alarm, a special edition alarm podcast.
Well,
with Nigel Twist, because I think you two are buddies on Facebook, right?
Am I buddies with Nigel?
I thought you were buddies with Nigel. No, that doesn't count.
We do want to invite at some point some of our fellow podcasters and Twitter personalities on.
Yes, sir. Bono's Bible?
Bono's Bible. That's one of our favorite follows.
The Garden Tarts.
And the Garden Tarts. Those tarts, they are cool. They got a great podcast we want to pursue. And also there's a Twitter account that I haven't interacted with very much, but I love You Two Every Day. It's just it's so great. It's lyrics every day, just a couple of lines. So much love. Shout out. Track 3.
One more comment on this. I discovered this for the first time last week sitting in a hotel room by the beach. I've got the earbuds in, the music's cranked up. I don't know if you've ever caught this. The very first sound of this song is Adam Clayton coming in. There's a brief 1 second, the song fades in. Mm-hmm. It fades in, and it's almost as if they capture they just start recording in the middle of a song and then they fade in. So if you listen, you'll hear it's like a ba-boom, and then they fade in, and then I think you start hearing the percussion.
I don't know if I've heard that. I'll have to check that out.
Oh, listen to it. I don't know who was responsible for it, Lan White, or I don't know if Lily White remixed it, but they come right. It's like they just started recording in the middle of Clayton playing, and then they fade up, and
it's got that kind of loose.
Yeah.
Almost like let's start playing now kind of feeling at the beginning of that song.
Yep.
I always thought that it had this kind of open-ended, start as opposed to, and that's what made it more endearing because it has this ragged kind of this Western desert motif and all that. But part of that is this ragged kind of open-ended feeling where it's not super tight production. And like the beginning of this song is a good example, but I never noticed. I'll check that out. Let me also add that I never noticed this was, again, these songs have a life outside of their own song or their own music. But when this came out on Rattle and Hum, and when I heard it live, when I heard it with the choir, and when I heard them talking about it, I realized that it was a gospel song. As much as it is written in the style of the Psalms, it is a gospel song. And when you hear it in that context, I mean, it can be both. It can be this this rock song that is about this troubadour that is going through his life looking for the answer, but also it is a gospel song, and interpreted that way, it has another dimension altogether. But for all these reasons, it is absolutely one of the best songs to me ever in my life, and always will be. Very personal.
And as I endeavor to reference outside sources for great performances of this song, let me refer people to the Jimmy Kimmel show a few years ago when they performed this with the Sela Choir. I won't tip it off to what happens, but after you get through watching U2 at the Super Bowl in 2002, YouTube a search for U2 on the Jimmy Kimmel show with the Sela Choir. And that's all I have to say about that. Go ahead.
Thank you. Track 3, the first single off the album, and I guess the biggest hit, their first #1 hit, an absolute gem, a perfect song. It's called With or Without You. It is many times underappreciated because it was such a big hit. And I think that takes away from it, that, oh, wow. It's like every other great song that became a big hit. Sometimes that tarnishes its or people think it takes away from its integrity or its seriousness. This is a fantastically crafted song. It is not a love song. It's a pain song. It's along the lines of Wrapped Around Your Finger by Police or The One I Love by REM. It is a song about obsession, pain, suffering, and being without someone, or the pain of being with someone and unable to make it work. It's a perfect song. The words reflect absolute pathos, and it is exquisitely crafted. To me, less is more. It's quiet, and it maintains that level. It never gets out of its own, this brooding kind of level that it's on. It never goes too high and explodes, okay? Even at the climax toward the end, it doesn't get too big. The instrumentation is very measured. It's not wild. And man, Adam's bass, brother, that is so good. I mean, this is such a perfect mix of the music. You look at the words. I mean, I could read them to you, but come on. I mean, this is such good, right? See the stone set in your eyes. And again, the thorn twist in your side. There's so much religious imagery here, and the mixing of different elements of crucifixion and Old Testament imagery and just different things. But I mean, on a bed of nails, she makes me wait. I'm going to give you a chance to talk, I promise. But come on, dude.
Good cop, bad cop. Point, counterpoint.
Oh, come on.
It's one of my least favorite songs on the album. Now, understand. We're talking about a great album. So when I compare this to, I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For, The Streets Have No Name, Running Stand Still, Red Hill Mining Town. I mean, you're talking about it has some very stiff competition. So relative to where it stacks up on with the rest of the songs on the album,
that's fair.
It's one of my least favorite songs. I don't think it's a bad song. I think it's pretty good, but it's not a great song. And a couple reasons why, and this has always rubbed me the wrong way, is his use of cliches. Sleight of hand and twist of fate, just always just coming right out of the gate. I thought, can we not be a little bit more creative than that?
Seriously, dude?
Yeah,
Really?
seriously. Yeah. Sleight of hand and twist of fate. I thought right off the bat, can we not be, because we've not indulged in that kind of stuff up to this point in the album.
You ever think that maybe he's saying those as cliches on purpose to say that that's what these are, and almost saying tongue in cheek that you could say these are sleight of hand or twist of fate, and he's got kind of there's a sarcasm there. I mean, you got
maybe, but it's still the use of you're still using cliche in song, whether it's intentional or unintentional, and that's.
I wish we'd already done Octung Baby, so I could tell you how this song is as good as One. I wish that we had already done Octung Baby, so that I could tell you how this song is as good as One.
Oh, great day in the morning.
But we can't we're not getting ahead. I'm just telling you now.
Getting ahead. But now, having said that, let me piggyback a little bit on what you've said. I don't think it's a bad song, and I think you're right. I think some of the criticism, not that there's a lot, but is probably due to the fact that it was it
A hit.
was it was a hit. It was a number one hit. One of the things that is, and Edge has talked about this, is that the outro, there's this, you want Edge to just blow this thing up,
No,
go off with
no,
some sort of
no,
great guitar
no.
solo,
It's perfect. It's
but he
perfect the way
doesn't do
it
that.
is.
But it is, but there's there with that tension of him wanting to do that and him not doing that. I think is part of the almost the beauty of the outro, is
Yes,
that
it
you
is.
anticipate what's going to happen and you're surprised that it doesn't, and you live in that moment where you say, wow, this is kind of different, I didn't expect this.
Yeah, well, don't you read literature as saying what is not said is as important as what is said? You know,
Yeah,
that's how that's art. And saying what is left out is almost as important as what is put in. The thing that he didn't do
yeah.
that you're longing for, maybe you're longing for it. I think to me, it's perfectly satisfying. It satisfies my senses and my emotion, the level that he keeps it at here, because there is
There's
pathos there. And there is, listen, Bono is out of his mind with, with his emotion here and his writhing and his complete, he's a basket case. Doesn't mean the Edge has to do any Hendrix moves on a guitar to illustrate that.
well,
We
we've
get
talked
that
about this.
but we get it from the quiet delivery of vocals. We get it from the measured percussion, and it keeps that tone that it should all the way through. If you would have had something break out like Exit going up and down and like all of a sudden, it's crazy. That's not the way it should be.
We've talked about this before, or at least I have, in significant detail. Part of Edge's brilliance is the fact he knows when to step back,
Mhm.
and that it's as if he could overtake a song anytime he wants, but for the betterment of the whole song, he will pull back and
Mhm.
stay in the background a little bit so that the song is greater because of that. I
Yeah,
think this is a case where that's true.
I agree. I
But
wrote
again,
down and I put a smiley face in my notes, the glorious outro. I just think the outro of the song is so good. And musically, that outro to me is the essence. And again, you're right. This is the best video of any of the ones for this song.
yes, yes,
It is
yes. The
also,
videos fits the song to a T.
it is art. It is exactly
Yep.
what 1987 looked like as an alternative rock listener or whatever. Very shadowy, very grainy, very anti-neon colors. It was almost a snapback in response to the Janet Jackson and Paula Abdul 80s look and feel with that, neon primary colors and all that and dancers. This was the grainy, earth tones, sepia toned, slow motion, steady cam type, self-important kind of thing, but it worked.
It was minimal. It's I think that's the phrase that jumps out at me about this song, is that the song is in and of itself is minimal.
When he puts his arms up at the
I
end,
know, and he's swinging.
crossed over his head, and when he
My
swings
gosh,
that
he has a
guitar,
ponytail. What happened to that mullet?
dude, and I tried the leather vest with no shirt. It wasn't the same. Only he could
Was
do
that when you were a kid, or as you became an adult?
I'm talking recently. I mean, I'm in a
Oh,
midlife crisis, but you're right. It fit perfectly. And man, it does. It doesn't look dated. When you look back at some of the things, you're like, I can tell that was 1987. It holds up pretty well because
well,
it was,
minimalism is in now,
yeah, well, sure.
so it would fit, But if you want to explore an outro that isn't minimal with this song, go watch their performance of this on the Rattle and Hum DVD, because Edge kind of goes off a little bit on that version.
Yeah.
So you get
Yeah.
a contrast there of what it was for Edge to step out a little
Great
bit
point.
and what it is for him to hold back.
And the life outside the album recording of this song was that in concert, you and I have seen him several times where they've taken this to another level and it becomes this, we'll shine like stars.
Oh, I love that out.
No,
Golly, I love that
I
outro. That's a
love when
beautiful.
he does that because he takes it into this joyful place where it's still the same song, but then it becomes this sing along, uniting the audience. It becomes a joyful song.
So the first three songs here, And I think this is true of the entire album. If you look at phrases like, it's all I can do, I still haven't found what I'm looking for, you give it all, but I want more. Then you get into running to stand still, love slowly stripped away, love seen its better day. You're talking about an unfulfilled longing, aspiration that exceeds our grasp. And I think that is a huge theme, kind of an umbrella theme of this whole album.
Absolutely. The reaching, the yearning, the running, those action verbs, those soul actions. The high poetry is one thing, but then these action descriptions of my hands are tied and I'm running, I'm giving myself away, and all these things throughout side two, as you know, as we'll see, these are concepts that are uniting the album. If there is a theme, then that's it. I also love the recurring themes of weather. You've got fire, rain, darkness, night, these big grandiose ideas of these feelings created by the atmospheric conditions, all those things, and then how it feels to with the action verb. So, all right.
Track 4, BBTS, Bullet the Blue Sky. Probably one of the biggest departures from the album, I think, in that there are numerous songs on the album that have a kind of an American rootsy feel. This song is the heaviest song, I think, or maybe one of the two heaviest songs on the album. Thematically, it fits, I think, with a lot of what they were trying to do. Musically, I think it's a departure.
It's a musical journey.
It's a musical journey. So what are your thoughts on this?
No, definitely a departure. I've never heard this before. I mean, here comes this twisted, gnarly, atonal feedback, Hendrix kind of
minimalism goes out the window on this one.
Absolutely. I heard somebody say it's controlled violence of a song.
That's good.
It's, and Larry is banging, with abandon. It is this departure that came after these first three hymn-like, angelic, spiritually yearning, elements of gospel as otherworldly, and then this radio-friendly hit immediately preceding it, With or Without You. And then all of a sudden, here's this boom. It was primal. It was such a departure. Love it.
The most intriguing part of this song, I'm not a huge fan of the song relative to other songs on the album. I don't dislike the song. One of the things...
I don't dislike the song.
Here comes a good...
Not a bad song. I just don't love it.
One of the things I love about this song, though, is how he's able to elicit the imagery of a plane flying over with his guitar.
That's not a real plane?
No, because I've seen him live in concert.
I've seen him live.
It's not a real plane.
It is amazing, the sound he gets out of that guitar. And I think that's when people started taking note. Not people started taking, but it's like this is one of the examples of him being this creative force. And like, what are these sounds? Seeing that song live, either seeing a live performance on video or live in the venue with him, it's otherworldly.
This song is a kind of a departure from a lot of the other songs on the album musically. Steve Lillywhite, who was not involved in the mixing of a lot of other songs on this album, was brought in, I think, to mix this song. So maybe that explains it, that you're bringing in an outside influence who's not been there while they're basking themselves in American.
Yeah, but it doesn't sound out of place. It doesn't sound like, oh, this is obviously the Steve Lillywhite.
It doesn't, and I don't know why. I think it's because thematically he's dealing with America. Maybe that's why it doesn't feel out of place, or maybe it's just because we've heard it so many times it doesn't feel out of place. I didn't think it felt out of place in '87, though. I'll say that.
And it's so interesting because the two different styles of their previous producers, you've got Eno and Lenoir, this ethereal kind of atmospheric feeling, and then there's the Steve Lillywhite, the straight ahead rock and roll. Eno and Lenoir produced the album. Lillywhite mixed a few tracks. They're both present here, but it sounds unified. It doesn't sound like there's two extremes. And even though this song is a departure, it doesn't sound like it's out of place. Like, what's this all of a sudden?
You two at this point, this is their 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth album. They are at the cusp of potential major stardom thanks to their rising success up to that point and Live Aid. And they don't play it safe. They create this artistic, ambiguously gray album called The Unforgettable Fire on the heels of 3 albums that were similar, but yet not exactly the same. And then they do a complete 180-degree turn and they start diving into American folk music and blues and tinged with country. That's awfully gutsy for a band that's right on the cusp of having major stardom, because if this album doesn't connect with the world at that point, the whole trajectory of their career takes a vastly different turn.
Luckily, it was artistically and commercially a through the roof success. But I think what you just described is the trajectory of every great artistic band or great rock and roll band or a great artistic creative force in music. The Beatles. I don't want to start naming groups that have done great things, but I mean, look at the chances that artists take, that are choices that they make, that they have no other alternative. Well, we could just keep making the same 3-minute records and make hit records and that's that, or we could push where our guts are taking us and take these chances. And yes, there are hits on this record. Doesn't mean that that's bad. A high school friend of mine, right about the time this album came out, had a heated discussion about how U2 is no longer any good because they're a commercial success. And commercial success, therefore, means that the integrity of the band is gone.
Sold out, yeah.
So, like, they were also a big devotee of Frank Zappa. Never had a hit. Okay, well, that's not the gauge by which you determine, the quality of the art.
Well, I've never had a hit.
Just because you never had a hit or did have a hit, that's not the barometer to use. Anyway, that's what we're talking about here, is the chance they took with the music, the sound, and how it all came together for the Joshua Tree.
And one more thing, and then I'll let you jump back in. They did this at the point in their career where they could have failed miserably. So if they pulled off the Joshua Tree in 2010 and they failed, you know what? So what? So what? We've had Octung Baby. We've done this. We've done that.
But you couldn't have had Octung. Hey, man.
I know. But I'm saying
that's like saying if they'd made Back to the Future 2 before Back to the Future 1. Hey, you can't make Octung. It's one side of the coin. You got to have Joshua Tree first to have Octung Baby, which is.
But my point is that they took this risk at a critical juncture in their career that could have derailed their total trajectory for the next 20 or 30 years, as opposed to taking this risk at a point where they had a tremendous amount of commercial success and a lot of creative success and so on and so forth. I think you got to give them credit for doing this early in their career as opposed to pulling this off later.
Not unlike, well, sort of like Bruce with Born to Run and the choices he made on making that record at that juncture of his career. I'm pushing everything to the middle of the table. I'm all in. And you know what? If this doesn't, then
and I've at least been true to myself.
I've been true to myself. So again, this is Rock and Roll Doggies, 2 lifelong friends, Jason here and Don the Smurf in Durham, North Carolina. I'm here in Indianapolis enjoying a Christmas cocktail. I have the single malt Scotch whiskey, the first fill of the Glenlivet. What are you chugging on there? No, what were you drinking earlier?
I'm not really sure, actually, but there it is.
What are you in college? Somebody gave it to me. Purple Passion. Good man. We are on Bullet the Blue Sky. This is still on side 1, track 4 of A Joshua Tree. Talk about the lyrics of this song. Do you have them in front of you? In the howling wind comes a stinging rain.
Great songwriting, by the way. See it driving nails into the souls and the tree of pain. There are a lot of good moments in this song lyrically. From the firefly, a red orange glow.
Face of fear, running scared in the valley below. Man, this is major league writing.
You plant a demon seed, you raise a flower of fire. There's just a lot. There's a lot of good here, and then it gets into some moments in the songwriting process where it's obviously first person from his experience, his firsthand experience in Central America.
Yeah.
The mud huts where the children sleep, through the alleys of the quiet city street.
The
Across
good thing is
fields.
I don't have to know the specifics of that situation to love this song or to be affected by the passion. Okay. And so, yeah, like you said, this trip to Central America, El Salvador, I think it was, and he sees a lot of these things, and I don't have to choose my opinions on American involvement and the different things that are going on here. And is this an indictment of Reagan's America? And you know what? All I know is this is a hellish, dramatic retelling of his firsthand experience, including some biblical references, and you know, this is inspired by the horror of war that he sees there, tainted by political motivations. That all I know is this song makes me feel a certain way and makes me open up to things that I never considered before. This is one of those songs that's in the language I didn't know that I could speak or understand, but I certainly did. Either you speak it or you don't, because when you talk about Jacob wrestled the angel, this is not a very common pop music reference.
No, it's not. You know, one thing about U2, and they've engaged in the political realm since the get-go. What I like about this song is that it's a political song, but it's at the micro level and not the macro level. It's not at the policy level, it's at human level, so that you don't have to dive into the counterpoint of Reaganomics. I mean, well, Reagan's America versus the flip side of that coin, because you're dealing with what's going on at the ground. And that's what he's doing. It's the human element.
The human element.
That's what this is about. And he does it, you know, there are no references to Reagan here.
No. And I think that's just because it was the 80s. People don't, well, Reagan. It's just like today when you talk about songs of experience, when you talk about their current music and the political overtones of that, they're not talking about policies or anything. They're talking about the human experience. Red Flag Day. That's about a human experience.
Right. Summer of Love is a jumping the gun, but
but it's what you're talking about, right? Great. Micro level.
It's a unique song, and it fits again thematically more than it does musically. So I don't think that if it didn't fit thematically and it didn't fit musically, it would be this, whoa, this sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
They've stuck discotheque in here between With or Without You and Running to Stand Still.
Yeah.
But that's an exaggeration.
No, but the theme, the lyrics, the theme, this brokenness, this worldview of all these things that are happening. And even though the album is heavy laden with all of these commentaries about world situations, and yes, these are political opinions and things that are happening around the world, it doesn't always feel like a political album. It still is a very personal, very, very personal album to me, and I think to a lot of people. So it's not like it has to be taken as this. It's not like this protest album or whatever you want to call it.
Right. And, you know, we probably we didn't touch on this at the beginning, and we probably should have, but the actual Joshua Tree title, originally it was supposed to be titled The Two Americas. I guess they discovered the actual Joshua Tree, the Joshua trees that are prevalent in the American Southwest. Bono, through some of his scriptural reading, had been able to tie that in and kind of latched on to that as a title for the album.
But it's perfect because it is the two Americas. It's this gnarled, twisted, imperfect, yet still persevering. If you look at the way a Joshua tree grows, it still is reaching for the sky. It is like life finds a way, kind of like I am still persevering. America, the idea of America, still perseveres, although twisted and imperfect, and this kind of not the most beautiful at times to look at, but this growing and still surviving in this desert wasteland. That's, to me, that's a great metaphor for a lot of things, for life, for America.
I'm not Mormon, but I believe I read this, that in the Book of Mormon, the Joshua tree actually points to the promised land.
Points toward Provo, Utah,
Provo.
Salt Lake City,
You go to Provo, you stay in. No, yeah, you go in Utah, you stay in Utah.
Arvin, Velma, and Provo. So I didn't know that. That's another.
I believe that's true, and I could probably research that now.
I know a guy whose last name is Mormon. I can ask him. Yeah. So I mean, here's Bullet the Blue Sky. I can remember my friend Charlotte Butler from Asbury. I was talking to her about the album, and I said, "Hey, have you heard it? You know, what do you think? What's your favorite track?" Bullet the Blue Sky. I love it. I can't get enough of it. And I'm like, oh yeah. For some reason, I'll always remember her saying that. And to me, this is another example of how this exceptional writing and this whole new level of awareness and consciousness and this metaphorical spiritual yearning, just so good, so good.
So it's the summer of '87, and I'm living in a condo in the Panhandle of Florida. There's nothing around there but sand and trees. So it provides a really interesting backdrop to this album that I'm discovering. I'm diving deeply into this album when I go out and look, and all I'm seeing are these sort of pseudo Joshua trees out in the middle of the sand.
Huh.
And
Interesting.
I don't know why I threw that in there.
Well,
but
because that's important. I mean, where you are geographically.
Yes.
Cut 5 is the beautiful Running to Stand Still. This gorgeous blues. Again, less is more. It probably wasn't until several times through it, and maybe not even until recently, that I appreciated how great the piano is in this song. It is, to me, what makes the song so lovely, the lilting melody with this underlying heartbreak of the lyrics, the absolute tragic lyrics, these, again, just the writing is so good. The narrative of what happens to these two people, this couple, I think it is. I think we all agree. We've read that it's about addiction and it's about the poison from the poison stream. Oh, brother. Just sweet the sin, bitter the taste in my mouth. This song is not the easiest one to listen to, because even though it is pleasing, like musically, it's nice. It is like the most heartbreaking story.
It's one of my favorites on the album. It is by far one of my favorites on the album. I've loved it from the get-go. I still love it. I still listen to it. And again, holding up to my badge of honor as the one who references previous performances of this song, the live version of this that was played in Sydney in 1993 is just phenomenal, where he is theatrically mimicking a heroin addict by rolling up his sleeve and jabbing the needle into his arm. And I'm sure that's not the only time he pulled that off, but the theatrical element of that on the 1993 Sydney show that's on DVD is phenomenal. Here's something that the title was actually borrowed from, I think, Bono's brother, who was stuck in his job. And he told Bono, "I feel like I'm running to stand still."
No kidding. I never
And that was where all of this kind of evolved. I don't know what the songwriting process is like. Does he write the song and then create the title? Bruce, on the other hand, who we're both huge fans of, Bruce will write the title and then write the song. Paul Simon will write the actual music, not the lyrics, but he'll write the music and then turn around and write the lyrics. So I don't know which came first, but it's a real gem on the album. It has this moment where,
the lyrics are so great on this track. One of the moments and the choices that he makes here in the first verse, I got to do something about where we're going. Step on a steam.
I love that.
Yeah, all of this, and you can read the whole thing. But step on a steam train, step out of the driving rain, maybe run from the darkness in the night. The word maybe. That word maybe.
Yes.
That word maybe is
so critical. Yes.
because it's all like I could, and
There's an option. I don't know if I can.
Mhm.
Am I running or am I standing still?
I want to, I might, I could do this. Maybe I'll, and it just that whole paralysis of the soul right there is, and just the choice to use the word maybe there is just a great moment.
That's a great observation. Yes, yes.
Yeah. And the Seven Towers is this real place, this
Right.
part of town that's become kind of known for this reference to where, again, the horror of addiction that sometimes I wonder why they write so much about it. Well, it's pretty bad.
He said this, and I quote, "And so if you can't change the world you're living in, seeing through different eyes is the only alternative. And heroin gives you heroin eyes to see the world with. The thing about heroin is that you think that's the way it really is. That the old you who worries about paying the rent, the old you who just worries, is not the real you."
Oh, wow. Which reality is, it's like a Black Mirror episode.
Yeah.
Okay, which reality is real?
Yeah. It's Twilight Zone-ish almost.
It is. This last verse is unbelievably good, and I'm going to stop with my fawning over it, but just read this. And sometimes, I mean, everyone listening to this will know, but just if you read this on the page, she will suffer the needle chill. She's running to stand still. Read this last verse again. It's just so, and again, this is a picture. This could have been a 7-minute indulgent,
Yes,
narrative,
yes,
but
it wasn't right.
But it's the right size. It's
yes,
the right size, the right length, and it closes out this first 5-song set that to me is, I can't imagine a more perfect album side, opening 5 cuts, whatever. To me, it's perfect.
I love the, and I know it's very on the surface, it's very insignificant. Ah la 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 today. I don't like fillers. That's a filler, but my gosh, it works. I don't know why. It's almost like a lullaby.
Uh-huh.
It's almost like it's being in the midst of a trip.
I like it too, and I don't like filler. Same as you, and I don't think that this is filler. I think that this is not just getting you from one place to the next. I think it fits because it is that kind of mournful lullaby of like, it's this, what's going to happen, I don't know, and la-di-da, kind of almost that feeling of, well, que sera, sera, la-di-da, la-la-la today,
I
la-di-da.
also like, and I think this is pretty poignant, of someone who is, and I've never been trapped in heroin addiction, but
No, never trapped.
that that sin, if you will. You got to cry without weeping, talk without speaking, scream without raising your voice. So it's this, there's this urge to do things, but you've got to quell it.
Yeah. That is the most magical coupling right there. Cry without weeping, talk without speaking, scream without raising your voice. And that will bring us to the close of side 1 of the Joshua Tree. How do we do? Join us next episode as we break down side 2 and give our overall rating, as well as standout track, underrated track, and best lyrics. Until then, it's rock and roll doggies. Take us out, Smurf.
All right. Thanks for logging on and listening to our thoughts on one of the most influential bands of the modern era. Be sure to follow us at Rock and Roll Doggies on Instagram and on Twitter at Roll Doggies for details about our next podcast and other tidbits as we take a chronological journey through the discography of U2. Until we connect again, good night, everybody.
No, it's a musical journey. That's really what it is.